Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Yet another entry for this series here, again continuing the theme associated with weirdness. And in this case, this particular entry, a recent one, is pretty strange. It's pretty weird. Never heard of this cryptid before. In fact, it kind of like borders on the paranormal side, but the reason why I think it's more cryptid related is the fact that it seems to have characteristics of intelligence. Like it seems to have something where it's more of like an otherworldly being rather than something more paranormal, if you catch the difference between the two. Like I think this is something more along the lines of something from another dimension rather than something more along the lines of, say, a ghost or demon or anything like that. And what I'm talking about here is the very recent phenomenon known as the Black Stickman. And when I say very recent, it's because it's actually something that, based on the earliest findings, they're either sometime in the 1980s. It seems like there's been a whole new quote-unquote trend of sightings with the Black Stickman. And in my case here, I'm going to describe what they are, and then I'll give some of the examples of what people have mentioned. But if anyone has any other examples, anything else that they wanted to describe, as always, post your comments and share them below. It'd be fascinating to see how many others have experienced the Black Stickman. Now, what are they? What are the Black Stickmen? Well, the reason that they're called that is because quite literally they are the classic stick man or stick men that you and I used to draw as little kids. Basically stick figures. They have very, very thin features, like very thin arms, a very thin waist, chest, very thin legs. They're tall, they're gaunt, and in some cases they either have a very small head or they have no head at all. Like basically it's just a line that's supposed to represent, a thin line that's supposed to represent their head. But in all circumstances, these Black Stickmen are totally black. Like we're talking midnight black. Like there's not a single trace of any other color to them. They're again very, very thin, like otherworldly thin. Like this is not like your average person that you see that's really, really, really skinny. No, I mean this is beyond that. This is something where it's almost like the hide behind. One of the videos that I had a couple of cryptid videos back, that was supposed to be able to get very, very thin and hide behind trees that are also thin. No, this is supposed to be a whole other level, like otherworldly, freakishly thin. And these are, imagine like real life stick figures come to life, moving about, and then you have these Black Stickmen. Now, there haven't been too many reports of them being essentially like malevolent or being harmful to people. If anything, the most common thing with these Black Stickmen seems to be that once they're discovered, once people actually see them, it's always by accident. Like the Black Stickmen purposely avoid being seen. They can do things to remove themselves from sight, either like they hide in shadows or they move about between crevices, whatever. Whenever it comes to their existence, their whole point is to remain as hidden as possible. But every now and then, when somebody catches them in the act, like let's say catches them walking about, they'll have a shocked expression with their body. If you can kind of picture that, because they don't have any discernible features in their face. Their face is just one black line or one black oval, but the way that they move and the way that they express after being caught, it's as if they're surprised that they've been seen. And then that's when either A, they quickly, very, very quickly, almost impossibly fast, run away as quickly as possible, or B, taking a more freakish turn, they actually start to pursue the person that has seen them, maybe to try to scare them away of some sort. But in any case, their height has also been described as being average. Let's say your average human height, 5-6 feet, somewhere around there, to also being described as quote-unquote impossibly tall. In fact, there's some stories of people that have posted on message boards where even when they've seen them from far away, they seem to be really tall, so that goes to note that if they were even closer, they would be much, much larger. Again, their faces have no discernible features, but for the fact of their body expressing how they're reacting. This is the interesting part too regarding their body. They apparently are two-dimensional, like they're living paper, in other words, like the game Paper Mario. Imagine something like that, but in real life, a 3D environment featuring 2D figures, and you have these black stickmen. There's no depth to them. If you were to look at them and you were to try to, like, let's say, do a 360 view, it would always look like they're two-dimensional. I don't know how that could happen in real life, but apparently they can. Of course, with any kind of special effects in a movie, you can get the idea. But imagine trying to see that in real life, and it would break like laws of physics of some sort, because there has to be some kind of depth, some kind of 3D physical status associated with these creatures. But no, they're apparently 100% 2D. And then the other unique thing about them is the fact that the way they move, it's been described as them doing a weird gallop or a weird like underwater motion, as if they're moving. Like probably the closest I could think of is like if you've ever seen a giraffe move, because it's impossible. You know, giraffes are really tall. The way they move is very, very graceful. It's been described as something like along those lines with these black stickmen, where because they're impossibly tall, the way they move is very reminiscent of that. One person described it as, imagine if somebody were holding up, like let's say those puppets on a string, and you would mimic a puppet like jumping and running, then that's the effect that these black stickmen have. It's as if somebody has strings on them and is purposely moving them around, and it looks fake, but it looks real at the same time. That's what makes it so unsettling about these black stickmen, because when you see them, apparently you're supposed to be like entranced by how they're moving. You're thinking to yourself, there's nothing like this that should move like it does, but it is. It's actually doing it. Apparently, they've been reported as being around sometime either during the twilight period at night or just before dawn. Those are the most common times associated with their appearances. In fact, you've seen probably some pictures here by now of one of the black stickmen apparently caught on video, and you can see it, how it's descending a building of some sort. And with regards to the time period, it probably makes sense that it's tied to twilight or just before dawn, because this is the time at night when it is in a perfect environment. It can easily blend within all the many shadows, and who knows, you might have actually had experiences in and around the black stickmen and never even knew it. You might have been walking, let's say at night, past some trees, and you never even knew that somewhere in those trees, within the shadows created by all the branches and all those leaves, was one of these black stickmen just looking at you, and then just, you know, not interacting necessarily, but you getting that sense that, hey, you know, something is watching me, but you can't exactly pick out what it is. But yeah, that's the story associated with the black stickman. In fact, the reason why I mentioned that they're so recent is because the first credible, I guess you could call it, website that caused the phenomenon of black stickman to come about was a website called listverse.com back in 2009. They were posting the top 10 most bizarre modern paranormal phenomena, but at the same time they were also including a bunch of cryptids. Like, for example, they listed the chupacabra within the list itself. They also listed like the dog-headed men. So to give you an idea, it wasn't all paranormal stuff, it was just a mixture of them. And they listed the black stickman as being number 3 on the list. And no sooner did they post this article, then people on the forum, on the comments, started saying, hey, I've actually run into this. It's almost like it ignited a discussion, a hidden discussion amongst people who had seen the black stickman, but because there wasn't really nothing as far as an article or some kind of topic mentioning the black stickman before, people must have kept their experiences to themselves. But once that happened and there was an article and people started commenting on it about their own experiences, it just created like a self-serving cycle where people were essentially saying, "Oh, I saw one, and this is my experience," and then another would post, "I saw one too. I can't believe it. You know that there's other people that have seen it. I thought I was the only one." And that's where, again, back in 2009, that's when things started to take a turn with regards to the sightings of the Black Stickman. In fact, let me post let me talk about real quick about one of the people that had mentioned their experience. This was a person on that website. They go by the name of Davian Castiglione, and they stated, my sister told me that she saw a stickman too when she was a kid. Back then, it was our aunt's funeral, and she was sitting outside the funeral when she noticed a strange, quote-unquote, stick-like person walking back and forth above the electrical wiring of the pole in front of the funeral. She got really frightened, and she told our cousin to look at it, and at first our cousin didn't believe her, but after a few minutes she saw the stickman too, and both of them got terrified. They told our cousin's mom if she saw the stickman. She said no. It took several hours, it was noon, until dawn before finally the stickman faded away. And she told me the story to me, and I had doubts, but when I saw the article I was like, wow, I never thought a lot of people saw stickman too from around the world. I thought it was just my sis and I, just being crazy. So interesting stuff. By the way, if throughout this video you've been thinking, well, how isn't this pretty close to like the shadow people phenomenon, or isn't this pretty close in some cases to the quote-unquote reports tied to the Slender Man? It is pretty close, but the way it takes a different turn is that most of the people that are talking about the stickman, again, are not really tying it to like the paranormal side of the shadow people, which that is more definitely aligned with something else, like something ghost related, maybe something demonic related. But anything involving the Black Stickman, it just seems to be like some kind of interdimensional being that probably is observing people, it's just observing the world, and then somehow, some way, it accidentally gets caught in people's visions. It's not supposed to get caught, and then when it does, it immediately tries to run away, while the shadow people tend to be something else, something where they purposely visit people either at night, or they do things to people at night, especially with the phenomenon known as the sleep paralysis and so forth. That's a whole other different story, but again, big difference. And then of course when it comes to the Slender Man, it's just something that was made up as a story on a website to try to generate buzz of some sort. At least, again, if you go back to the origins of the Slender Man, that seems to be the basis of it. But others, they have said that they have seen the Black Stickman, and that they have seen in some cases multiple Black Stickmen. Like again, that there's a whole race of them somewhere out there in this world, and they're just recently being discovered. Even after, who knows, they might have been in existence for eons, centuries, something like that. But somewhere along the way, just until now, more people are trying to see them. Very interesting stuff. By the way, if anyone has any other tales, anything regarding the Black Stickman, maybe any other weird behavior tied to them, or any other characteristics tied to them, please post your comments, share them below. It'll be fascinating to see when or if anybody else has experienced them, particularly if anyone has any tales of seeing the Black Stickman. Unfortunately, there's not too many photos, videos, anything like that tied to them. In fact, if there is, they've been very well concealed, to the point that, who knows, maybe again they're hiding out in plain sight. But because of the way they look, because of the way they interact, it just seems like they haven't just been, there's not that smoking gun evidence yet to suggest that they are truly existing. But again, the fact that so many people are now reporting them, you can't help but not dismiss the fact that this could be something else. This could be another type of cryptid, something that is emerging out there in this world. Fascinating stuff. So thanks for the suggestion. So alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.